2024 marks the 10-year anniversary of Hearthstone, and what was meant to be a time of celebration with tons of callbacks and inside jokes for those of us who have stuck with the game all these years has instead become a time of controversy and dissent. First, they hit us with that pre-order bundle where you could get unreleased cards early, a transparent attempt at testing the waters for pay to win. Then, they took away the diamond card reward for collectors. Finally, they revamped the weekly quests, making them take significantly longer time to collect all the rewards. This one in particular felt bad because these quests are the main way for free-to-play players to fill out their collection. These animators, artists, and designers are putting out top-tier content consistently. One small change from the higher-ups completely sours everyone toward the game. But the new Battlegrounds Duos mode might just be the win that Hearthstone needs. For those unfamiliar with the mode, here's a 30-second rundown. Battlegrounds is a completely separate mode from the normal game that just happens to use Hearthstone assets and certain mechanics. In fact, it's so different there have been calls to split Battlegrounds off into its own app. Basically, the game features two phases, a shop phase and a battle phase. In the shop phase, which I'll refer to as the tavern phase from now on, you use gold to buy minions in the tavern and make your current minions stronger. Certain cards have synergies with each other, so you might refresh the tavern to search for those synergies and eventually form a composition. In the battle phase, you fight against one of 7 other players, where the victor deals damage to the loser based on the strength of the remaining minions. Repeat this cycle, taking and dealing damage to other players, until there's one player remaining. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the basic idea. So in the new mode, Battlegrounds Duos, there's still 8 players, but instead you team up with a partner and fight 3 other teams of 2. In the tavern phase, you can ping your partner and pass cards to them to help them find pieces for their strategy. And in the battle phase, you share a pool of health. Otherwise, the surface gameplay is largely unchanged. But now that you have a basic idea of what the game is, let's go into more detail on what works, what doesn't, and what kind of quality of life improvements should be considered. I'm just going to come right out and say it. This game mode is absolutely brilliant. In a lot of ways, Duos is far superior to the original Battlegrounds, although a lot of those strengths, exclusive to Duos, may turn into weaknesses as a meta develops. Here's an example. One of the most obvious changes from the original Battlegrounds is the consistency with which you can build the team composition you want. In the original, if you're offered a certain win condition early on, it's generally better to shape your strategy around it because any result in the top 4 is considered a win. So even if the composition you try for isn't the best one, it doesn't matter because you'll gain elo just by surviving long enough. A common sentiment among Battlegrounds players is, don't force a certain composition, but play the comp that the tavern gives you. That's because refreshing the tavern with new minions to find combo pieces costs gold. So if you spend all your gold refreshing, you won't have enough gold to buy minions, and you'll get destroyed. This is not the case with Duos. Because your partner has their own tavern, that's double the chance that you'll find the composition piece that you're looking for. Not only that, but your partner is looking for their own pieces too. So even if refreshing the tavern ends up not helping you, it could help your partner. One of the most frustrating aspects of single player is being one piece off an amazing combo, but never seeing it in the tavern once, even after spending your entire turn refreshing. Those types of moments almost never happen in Duos. The reduced randomness leads to fewer frustrations and a better gameplay experience. However, this is a double-edged sword. Because going for the top tier composition every time is viable due to the tavern consistency, this means that the meta becomes every team trying to rush to complete the best composition first. At the time of this video, Duos has only been out for a few days, but already a card has been removed in an emergency patch because it was so strong that everyone would go for it in every game. But really, this one card is a symptom of a greater problem. Massive stat compositions like Quillboars and Demons will always be the tier 1 boards in Duos, and it's due specifically to the differences that Duos has in its gameplay and rules. Let's break down exactly why this is. It's a bit complicated, but stay with me here. In single-player Battlegrounds, no composition is truly unbeatable. On a simplified level, there are 3 types of endgame compositions. Massive stats, where every minion has insanely high numbers, a death rattle composition, where many medium power minions are summoned and buffed during battle, and a scam composition, where a clown car of venomous minions kill in one hit, but also die in one hit. So it's kind of a rock, paper, scissors, where stats beats death rattle beats scam, and scam beats stats. The problem with scam compositions is that if minions waste their single hits and don't hit the big targets, the whole thing collapses. This isn't a problem in single player where you fight one team, but in duos, suddenly there are 14 targets instead of 7. Scam builds are objectively less consistent in duos because you might fight the wrong person first, making the scam useless. On the other hand, massive stats feel generally unstoppable in duos, as long as your teammate has a decent composition. When one member of a team is too overpowered in duos, victory feels inevitable, and the tension is washed away. In single player, the result feels more undetermined. The other half of the issue is that there are only 3 opponents when you fight, not 6. That's because when you battle, the person on your team who starts is not random. So let's say we've got person A and person B together on a team, right? Turn 1, A goes first. Turn 2, B goes first. They switch back and forth, with A starting on odd turns, B starting on even turns, right? But now, apply that to 3 other teams. Players A, C, E, and G start on odd turns, and players B, D, F, and H start on even turns. So that basically means that whether or not your minions have their chance to fight first or second, you'll always be paired against the same person on the opposite team. And you'd think this wouldn't really make a difference in the result. I mean, after all, the minions are going to fight and die one way or another anyway, but it absolutely does matter. Let's consider this hypothetical, with players A and B versus players C and D. Player A has the Giga Nuts, absolutely insane stats that can beat anything. Player B has an average composition that has a good chance of beating most others. Then on the other side, we've got player C, also has an average composition, and player D, who has a scam composition, where minions like Leroy Jenkins can kill any minion in one shot, but also die in one shot. Who wins? Well, if players A and C end up fighting each other, it would be a blowout. A would decimate C, then take out most of D, but then B would come in for the cleanup. What if the order were reversed and the other teammate went first? Well, it would be the same outcome. B might narrowly win or lose versus D, but then A would come out and destroy the remains of D and then C easily as well. The only way that C and D have a chance is if the pairing is A versus D. Then D can clean up A, and C can have a chance to defeat B. But because of the current gameplay rules, this will never happen. The result is determined before the battle even begins, purely because each player always starts against the same 3 enemy players. And there's no real way to prepare for this. It's pure luck if your strategy happens to beat the opponent you're paired with. You can't adapt either because it costs too many resources for 2 teams to pivot in the span of only 1 turn. With that in mind, I think one great quality of life change would be to have your team choose which board attacks first. A more elegant solution that wouldn't require any UI changes would be to introduce a spell that swaps your board with your teammate's board. That way, the odd, even queue of the players would be kept the same, but you could fight back against bad ordering. Plus, I think it could open up some mind games as well as some new strategies. Like if your friend has a hero power that better synergizes with your composition, you would swap boards. Maybe you could have it so that the first teammate buys the spell, and then when they use it, a temporary copy would appear in your partner's hand. If they play it, your team swaps. Otherwise, nothing happens. This would be a protection against trolling. Although, to be fair, I haven't encountered any trolling during my time playing. Just incompetence. Speaking of incompetence, let's talk about random teammates and the ping system. Generally, I think the ping system is fantastic at what it does. I thought that having random teammates would be an absolute train wreck, but that hasn't been the case for me at all. The vast majority of my teammates understand the game, ping major decisions before acting, and pass me the pieces I need to complete my composition. Every now and then, you'll get a person who makes absolutely baffling decisions, but overall, the experience has been great. That being said, I played the mode on the first day and was able to rank up fairly quickly, so it's possible that I may be matched with more competent people than the average person. I'm not saying I'm a god at the game, I'm definitely not. But what I mean is that, if I started a new account today, I would probably be more likely to encounter clueless noobs because I haven't ranked up yet. Because the most overpowered strategies involve passing combo pieces to your teammate, I would imagine that ranking up from 0 must be an extremely frustrating experience if you know what you're doing. But once you clear a certain threshold, the teammate quality becomes pretty consistent. The pings used to communicate with your random teammate are surprisingly versatile and can successfully convey different things based on the context. However, there are times when the ping system falls flat or feels confusing. Your ping and their ping look exactly the same, and if you didn't see them do it, you don't know whose ping it is. One easy fix to reduce confusion on this is to add colored backgrounds to the pings. Have the white bubbles of your pings tinted one color and the bubbles of your teammates a different color. That way, even if you look away, you can tell which player pinged, even if the ping type is the same. Communication with your teammate is fleshed out with the emote system. Emotes are available in single-player Battlegrounds, but they were almost never used. You might say, well played, announce how strong you are, how nervous you are, but that's about it. Suddenly, in duos, the emotes gain this whole new utility as a way to communicate with your teammate. You can get mad at them for refreshing past a vital minion, you can show embarrassment or regret when you make a mistake, you can praise their great decision-making. The new usage for emotes is so fantastic that I've actually considered buying more emotes in the store. However, I was shocked to find that the store only has one emote for sale at any given time, at least on my screen. I assume this is because in single player the emotes were useless and nobody ever bought one in the history of the game, so they downplayed them in the store. Now that there's actually a reason to use them, we should be given more opportunities in the store to buy them. Otherwise though, the pings do a great job of explaining every action you might want to ping, except one: attack order. In Battlegrounds, the minions attack from left to right, and some minions have special effects that activate when other minions die during combat, so it's better for them to be on the right so that they die last in combat. Some players are unaware of this, or at the very least have suboptimal attack order. It would be great to add a fifth ping, maybe something like this, to indicate that the position of the minions on board should be changed. There's not really a good way to explain this currently other than to spam check marks. I can understand that fewer ping types are better from a UI perspective, especially on mobile where it feels very difficult to touch a minion with 2 fingers consistently, but it would be a welcome change to be able to give advice on minion order, especially because you share a health pool and it can be the difference between winning and losing. Now, some people have criticized their teammates' overuse of the ping system, saying that they don't want to be told what to do and that too many pings are annoying. I couldn't disagree more with this sentiment. In a team-based game, the more information you have, the more successful you will be. I can't imagine wishing for less information. The pings give you an insight into what your partner is thinking and what they want to build toward. If you disagree with their advice, you don't have to take it. And hey, we've all had times where we forget to use our hero power, or we make a suboptimal play, or we do things in the wrong order. Having a second set of eyes point out a play we may not have considered is a great thing. And, as I mentioned, sometimes you have no idea what the competence of your teammate is, especially in the early ranks. Even if the action being pinged is brain dead obvious or brain dead wrong, I would still take it any day just because it helps me understand my teammates' knowledge of the game. My favorite thing about the ping system and duos in general is just how much more engaged I feel playing the game. In singles, I can watch a video in the background, I can eat lunch, I can leave the room. But in duos, it feels like decisions are constantly needing to be made, and time is always running out. In fact, I would love to see the turn timer be just 5 seconds longer in each round of duos. So just to recap, let's add more counters to the massive stats for the duos mode specifically. Let's make it easier to swap boards with your teammate to counter bad ordering. Let's add colored borders under the pings to indicate which teammate pinged. Let's consider maybe even adding a 5th ping for board order. I'd like to see more emotes available in the store at one time, and I'd like to make the turn timer 5 seconds longer behind the scenes to avoid those moments when your inputs get cut off at the end of your turns. Even though a lot of this review feels pretty critical, I can't adequately express how such a small change like having a teammate completely revitalized the game for me. I've been playing Hearthstone since 2015, and although the quality has been fairly consistent, the game hasn't done much to surprise me since the great single-player adventures like Dalaran Heist. I have a lot of love for the game, and it's been a huge part of my life. But at the same time, I feel like I've been playing the game almost like a zombie, going through the motions of collecting cards and completing dailies, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. The new controversial changes made to the game have snapped a lot of people out of that zombified state, and made them reconsider whether they even want to play the game at all. Battlegrounds Duos could be looked back on as the thing that kept people from quitting. And if you'd like to keep me from quitting making videos, please subscribe. I'm a small part-time creator who would love to have more time in the day to make videos like these. Sharing, liking, and subscribing helps me to do that. I'd also love to hear your thoughts on the new Battlegrounds mode and the state of Hearthstone in the comments below. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.